Hello and welcome to Strat Talks, our monthly series where we get some specialist on a particular subject or a region or a country and get our editorial colleagues I won't say quiz him, but at least have a discussion with him, ask his opinion and get insights into certain subjects. Last week, the inaugural topic was, of course, the lessons from Ukraine and Russia war for the Air Force, and the former Air Chief was our guest, as you would recall. And today, we are privileged to have Mr. Tilak Devasher, Pakistan specialist, somebody who's written several books on Pakistan and who's served in Pakistan in his stint as somebody who was with the RNAW in his working life, and someone who closely watches Pakistan even today. So welcome to this program. This is a long format program, and therefore feel free to have elaborate answers if you need to. But let me start by asking you to give us a brief overview of where do you think Pakistan is today. 5-7 minutes if you can tell us, and then we will open up for questions.
Yeah. Thanks Nitin, for having me. Interesting format you've got. I've never been quizzed by editorial board earlier. So though I've done long format podcasts.
Yes, I am sure.
Some even up to 2 hours.
Right.
But this is an interesting format that you've...
We took this idea from some, Time magazine editorial board or something of that kind. Okay. But not on camera. They don't do it on camera. You've seen them doing with the prime ministers or others. But yes, please go ahead.
So, it's... I've been following Pakistan for many number of years. In one word, I've never seen it this bad. There's a multiplicity of crises. And topping it all up, let me begin from the top.
Sure.
Topping it all up is a crisis of leadership. I have not seen the lack of understanding or the lack of vision and even a lack of courage for the leadership, civil or military, to understand the problem, to know what needs to be done, and to have the courage to do it. They're all kicking the can down the road. Let my time somehow or the other pass and let somebody else handle it. Wait for the next elections, wait for the next army chief, let me get an extension, then we'll see. So that is the fundamental crisis, and everything else seems to flow from this. Lack of leadership, lack of vision, lack of understanding, lack of courage. And then if you come down to the specifics, there is an obvious security crisis, both in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan. I suspect Sindh is going to go down that same route, but for a different reason, not for separatism, but of the issue of water. We will come to that a little later.
Of course.
And if you see the statistics, the Global Terrorism Index, which came out a week ago, 10 days ago, where Pakistan is number 2 on the countries affected by terrorism. Then you see the report of Pakistani think tanks. Like last month, there were 121 fatalities due to terrorism. And more than 50% of them were of security forces. So every day, for example, last week, there was the killing in the bomb explosion in Haqqaniya Madrasa, Shakora Khatak. There was an attack on Bannu, a major attack on Bannu. There was a female suicide bomber in Kalat. And then there's an open warfare almost with Afghanistan and Turkam.
Yeah.
This is all happening in a week's time.
Exactly.
So, both in KPK and Balochistan, the security is really, really bad. And the army doesn't seem to know what to do. And either they have lost the capacity or the capability or even the will to do anything about it. Right. So there's a security crisis. Then you have a political crisis where two sets of politicians are not willing to be in the same room, let alone talk.
Right.
So Imran Khan doesn't want to talk to the government. He says, I only talk to the real powers, by which he means the army. The army says we are not involved. So it's a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
But the focus of attention and the political capital being wasted in trying to work out some sort of a modus vivendi, time gets taken for that. And there's no governance.
Right.
As a result of this, there is no governance. So there is a political crisis.
Right.
Every now and then there is a judicial crisis. Now the judiciary has been totally emasculated after the 26th Amendment, where you have got a constitutional court with a pliable Chief Justice, which will take care of all the tricky issues. And the main Chief Justice of the main Supreme Court is handling tertiary cases. Then you have an economic crisis. I won't go into the details, but the basic fact about Pakistan is, to put it in very simple terms, it consumes more than it produces. Therefore, it has to import.
Right.
To pay for imports, it needs foreign exchange, which comes through two means, which is foreign remittances and exports.
Right.
Exports are declined. Foreign remittances go up and down depending on
The dollars.
the
price.
circumstances. So there's a current account deficit. You squeeze the current account deficit by squeezing imports, you don't have enough material for your exports. You don't have customs duty, so revenue falls.
Again,
So, it's a vicious cycle. And they are dependent all the time on the IMF bailouts. IMF is really like a ventilator in a last resort to sort of, they're currently, I think, on the 27th or 28th IMF bailout. And they got $7 billion. And an IMF review team is in Pakistan as we speak to carry out the first quarterly review and give them a further tranche of 1 billion. And despite Pakistan not meeting what it was supposed to do, even in terms of disclosures, I think they will get
another bailout.
They will get this 1 billion tranche because they just handed over Sharifullah to the US. So the quid pro quo,
Correct.
they'll probably get that. The IMF will say many nasty things, but in the end,
Right.
they will bail out. So that's the economic crisis. So you have a serious political crisis, you have a security crisis, you have an economic crisis, and as I was talking about Sindh, there's a looming water crisis. I have written about this
Yes.
in my first book. There was, to go into some details, the last water, which you have to give for the wheat crop, there would be a 30 to 40% shortage of water.
Really? Okay.
So the crop which is maturing, large portion of that will not get water because the dams, Tarbela and Mangla, have hit dead levels. Dead level means no outflow, is possible.
Right.
And because of lack of rains and this critical period, they're dependent on irrigation through the dams, which have reached dead levels. So which means less wheat, they'll have to import wheat. Already last year, I think they were planning to import 3 million tons. The population is expected to reach 350 million in about 20 years' time.
Right.
Today at 240 million, they are importing 3 million tons of wheat.
So imagine what happens.
Yeah. And the problem which I mentioned between Sindh and Punjab, the army wants what they call the Green Pakistan Initiative.
Right.
The Cholistan Desert is one big chunk of land which is available. The army has been eyeing it for a long time. But that needs to be irrigated.
Right.
So they plan to irrigate 1.2 million acres of that desert by getting 6 canals out of the Indus.
Okay.
The Indus is already very badly
Overexploited, I suppose.
Yeah, So south of a place called Kotri, there is not enough water to keep sea intrusion out.
Okay.
So the sea has intruded about 100 kilometers inland.
Really?
So 2 districts of Pakistan, that is Badil and Tata, are almost saline because of the seawater intrusion. The mangroves are almost 1/3 have been destroyed because of no fresh water coming in.
Right.
You pull out 6 more canals from the Indus upstream.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen to Sindh?
Correct.
So every day there are protests in Sindh today.
Oh.
Every day.
Okay.
That we will not allow this, we will not allow this. But if the army, cussed as it is, goes through with it, then you can imagine Sindh is going to be up in arms. So this province which is quiet at the moment, deliberately is being provoked.
And there could be separatist tendencies there.
Even though so long as the PPP is in power,
Right.
nothing like that would happen. But it could certainly lead to violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, and then of course Afghanistan is a different We
ball
come
game.
to Afghanistan, different ball game altogether.
Yes, no, that's true. No, that's wonderfully summed up actually. And it's, as they say, multitude of crises
Yeah.
as far as Pakistan is concerned. And I'm quite astonished that somebody as seasoned as you sees this as the worst time for Pakistan. I mean, you've seen Pakistan through different crises, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And if that is the case, then clearly that country has a lot to think about, if anybody is thinking.
Yeah.
We still don't know where we are. But I'll ask one question and then hand over to my colleagues. So, what is its standing now in the international arena as far as Pakistan is concerned? Because with Americans having withdrawn from Afghanistan, of course, you just mentioned Sharifullah being handed over. So, is that still a currency as far as Pakistan is concerned? Hand over people as it suits them and get something out of the Americans or the
See,
West?
they've learned the art of manipulating the Americans.
Right.
I think they do it the best. So like what Musharraf would do every time he went to the US,
Right.
one Al-Qaeda fellow would be released.
Exactly.
So then the US would be very happy and
Give him something.
give him something.
Yeah.
Here again, just look at the timing.
Right.
See, Sharifullah,
He's that Abbey Gate perpetrator. Yeah.
not perpetrator.
I mean,
He was the guy who wrecked the thing.
Yeah, Rakid. Okay.
He is pretty low level, not the
Right.
guy,
Yeah.
not the mastermind as was made out to be.
Okay.
But now he was released from jail by the Taliban from Bagram when they took over.
Right.
Apparently, according to the chatter and different
Groups.
groups, the different vloggers as they call them in
Right.
Pakistan,
Yes.
was arrested a couple of months ago based out of intelligence given by the Americans,
Right.
but released at a time when it suited Trump the most,
Yes.
to just before he was going to make the State of the Union
That's right.
address. And the IMF delegation is in
Is in Pakistan.
So according to this one person, I don't know, I have no means of verifying, there are 48 other ISKP members whom Pakistan has arrested from different places. So like Haddi Pheng thing.
Correct.
So every 2 months or 3 months, you will find that they will release one. This is the only thing they have going for them vis-a-vis the US.
Right.
The US, I mean, they have no economic cooperation going.
Right.
They have nothing else.
Correct.
But on cooperation on terrorism, they feel that they can pull the US back to start giving them assistance.
Right.
But I think they probably met their match in President Trump because one day he thanks them for Sharifullah, the next day travel advisory, and the third day a travel ban.
Right.
That they're considering a travel ban.
Correct.
So the Pakis are saying, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Abhi to hame praise kiya.
And this is not you're not used to this kind of a treatment, I'm sure.
They're not used to this transactional relationship.
That's right. Yeah.
So I said in a podcast just the other day, I said, what did you think? Ki jappi pappi ho jayegi? Ek Sharifullah diya and you're... So it's not going to be that.
Yeah. So that is where they are.
Yeah. So and with China, I think the Chinese are pretty upset with them.
Right.
But the Chinese have invested too much of financial capital and Xi Jinping is his personal capital on the success of CPEC
Right.
and BRI. So he can't now pull back. But there is no fresh investment coming into CPEC. And one of the things they are even talking about is to deploy Chinese security personnel for the protection of their projects.
Their assets. That's right. Yeah, that's. I think that sums up Pakistan in two answers that you've given. But I'm sure there are many nuances to Pakistan's state of affair. So let me open up. Ramananda Sengupta is our senior editorial member. So Ram, over to you.
So my question is that, for a while, since 2023, Pakistan has been accusing India of having behind the killings of various terrorists who had done something in India. The latest ones being Hafiz Saeed's brother-in-law, then that guy who was supposed to have helped kidnap the chap from Afghanistan. Have they given us any proof at all about this? Or is it just an accusation?
Not to the best of my knowledge. And also, where is the proof? You see, if you look at Pakistan's history, right from Liaquat Ali, the amount of political assassinations that have taken place in Pakistan and not explained till date. There was Liaquat Ali, there was Benazir Bhutto, there was Khan Saab, couple of Baloch leaders, poets. and no explanation. Nobody was ever found, nobody's ever been charged. Similarly, there was an MNA, or more recent, there was an MNA called Azam Tariq, the man who set up the Anjuman Sipahi Sahaba. There was a person who set up the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, Akram Lahori. These are all bumped off. And my sense is that the ISI uses people, and when their utility is over, they just bump them off. No questions asked. So a lot of these people have lost their utility or have gone wrong or are going to go wrong. And what better way than to bump them off and insinuate that this is the work of unknown gunmen from India. Now just imagine. From Rawalakot to Turbat, is the Indian intelligence agency that omniscient, that it knows who is sitting where, what is his address, what is his name, where is he going to come out from, one particular time, to station somebody there to bump him off? I don't think so. Even all the best agencies in the world got together, they would be able to do something like that. So I'm convinced it is the ISI itself which is doing it.
DK, you had a follow-up question to this.
Okay, I'll change it to the other question. So you just explained that there are so many types of crisis, financial, economic, other crises happening over there, and parallelly you also see that Pakistan is acquiring a lot of defense assets, very, very costly ones. So how do you think that makes 1 and 1 2? How will they support it and run it, or is it going to be a proxy yellow flag?
No, I don't think so. You see, China has been trying for some time to get its own security personnel, not necessarily PLA, but other private security agencies to come and protect Chinese personnel. Pakistan so far has resisted. So they will not allow any Chinese to come and actually run those assets. They get these platforms from China at friendship prices, which they can pay over the long term. And Pakistan's defense budget is also increasing. A lot of it is hidden away. For example, personnel, the salaries and the pensions are tucked away into the civilian budget, so it doesn't show part of the army's budget. So as far as defense is concerned, they make sure, not now, right from 1947, that there is no compromise on what the army wants. Whatever toys the army wants, by army I mean the armed forces, they will get them and they will be supplied. I also suspect that the Pakistan armed forces are not sure about Indian intentions. They also have a problem with Afghanistan and Taliban. So they really they feel that they need to beef up their defense to take care of any untoward eventualities. So that's why I suspect that they're doing this. And let's not forget that they're also earning money through defense exports. The kind of ammunition they've sold to Ukraine, and also selling their JF-17s, I think. So they're also making money. I'm not saying that is used to finance naval platforms, but certainly they're getting a bit more money than what they were earlier.
And the other question is, sir, that like we have seen it for the last 20 years, they have been pushing people here. With the rapid technological advancements now, what do you think that how are they going to use is there going to be any change in their tactics, that it will be unmanned things coming and doing the damage to us and moving back?
So already you'll find the last 3 years, in fact, the number of drones and different kinds of drones that are coming in to drop IDs, AK-47s, drugs, money, fake currency in both J&K and in Punjab. So I think increasingly they are going to be pushing that, which would suggest that they already have assets on the ground who would retrieve this and be able to use them, or they are training locals for this. So we'll just have to wait and see, but certainly there's no let up. Since the security grid now is so tight, they'll find it difficult to inject physical assets across the LOC. So they will certainly use technology.
So basically, anti-India campaign or anti-India stance that Pakistani army has continues. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
There's no let up in that.
No. You will find there may be change of emphasis. Instead of, what's called a low contact operation, 2 or 3 people, 1 or 2 regulars, you do one operation, an isolated vehicle, not following SOPs or something, target of opportunity,
Correct.
and then disappear.
Yes.
So low contact operations will continue, basically also signaling to the people that, we are still here.
Yes. And not allowing it to spill over where we respond, India responds.
Yeah, so that keeps it well below the threshold.
Correct.
But at the same time, you find if you go through the various TV programs and articles and all that, there is fatigue and tiredness in Pakistan on Kashmir. People are saying it's over.
Yes.
The story is over. Get on with it.
Correct.
Now the worry is guard what you have.
It might be taken away.
Yeah, guard what you have. I think Dr. Jaishankar made a phenomenal statement.
Yes. What is stolen from us?
Yeah. In fact, I don't think there's an ordinary theft. It's armed dacoity. In October 47, the armed raiders came in.
Right.
But he made a very valid point that is the only outstanding issue of Kashmir. You return it,
That's right.
and Kashmir is history.
That's
as far as we are concerned, it's history anyway.
Absolutely. So I think that's a good thing that has happened as far as India is concerned.
Yeah.
Pakistan may not have it. But Brigadier Chatterjee is our editor in Bharat Shakti.
Okay.
So I'm sure he has something to ask you.
Well, a little more about security. That's my area really. And we were talking about J&K and, the old story of 1,000 cuts and they haven't been able to bleed us enough. And now we have another, let's say, thing happening here in Bangladesh. This is perhaps the second innings. Earlier also, we've had earlier regimes in Bangladesh. We've had something quite unpleasant for us. Now the another situation is coming in. And the latest proof is that we had some senior Pakistani officials, including DGISI.
Analysis, yeah.
To what extent do you think this kind of a thing will be utilized, maybe in a similar way as we've seen in J&K, in Bangladesh, in those delicate areas of chicken neck, etc.?
You see, for the last 15 years, so long as Sheikh Hasina was in power, she put an end to all this, what the BNP and the Khalida Zia government was doing. That time there was very good and strong cooperation between DGFI and the ISI. And that time Ulfa was very strong. And I think it will be very difficult for Pakistan and Bangladesh to resurrect that kind of cooperation. So there were 2 types of people they would push across. One was the Northeast insurgents, and the second was jihadis. If at all they do anything now, it will be more in the line of jihadis. Because now, the floodgates have opened in Bangladesh. The latest rally of Hizb ut-Tahrir, Jamaat-e-Islami, Hifazatul Islam, there's so many organizations, you can't even keep track of them. And they could well try and push them across. But I think they also realize, the interim government and the army also realize, that the present government has a low threshold of patience. What they've shown in Pakistan, and Bangladesh will not be able to match that level of what Pakistan can do. So we have to be concerned, we have to be very watchful, but I don't think so the kind of thing what Pakistan was able to achieve through Bangladesh 15 years ago, when Khalida Zia was there, will be repeated. They will be far more cautious. Because, India is far more stronger and a far more determined country than what it was 15 years ago.
So, mostly signaling, would you think that these visits are being publicized? They're talking about more cooperation, some trade. What can Pakistan really offer, given its economic condition? But they're saying ships are now directly coming to Chittagong.
So, they sent 25,000 tons of wheat.
That's right.
And that rice.
Rice.
And the rice was rotten.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, where are they going to?
That's
and
right.
Just as a lighter vein, what Shehbaz Sharif and Yunus can talk about is how to beg and borrow money from different countries. Which is because both are economically. Bangladesh was doing very well economically.
That's right.
The GDP growth, the exports, $60 billion just in textiles.
That's right.
That is all gone into shambles. So, I would think it would be difficult to resurrect that level of cooperation. Now, but publicity, yes. So when this Kamaruzzaman, I think Lieutenant General, Armed Forces Division, he went. So it was flashed everywhere, Bangladeshi defense. The Bangladeshi defense delegations have been going every time after 75. I've been visiting,
They
low
have
level.
a DA also.
They have a DA there.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's posted, and they have a Pakistani DA in Dhaka. So it's no big deal, but just to show, basically to poke India in the eye. And unfortunately, people in India do get provoked. Dekho,
of course.
kya cooperation.
And there are people also in Bangladesh who keep talking about annexing parts of Northeast, Chicken's Neck.
And actually, we've all looked at chicken neck being so delicate a neck that it can be hard moment you put a squeeze from both sides. So perhaps this echoes better. There's better resonance when you build up a threat in chicken's neck by getting the DG.
Yeah, but then Bangladesh also realizes it has a far more vulnerable chicken's neck down in Teknaf, that tri-junction area.
With Myanmar.
Yeah. And now the Arakan army is sitting over there.
Exactly.
So they had better watch out themselves.
That's there. So I have Tripti, also another colleague in Strat News Global. So Tripti, over to you.
Thank you, Nitin. I can't help but take note of this figure that I came across. India has secured the 4th place in the Global Firepower Index, which showcases its military strength on the global stage. And I think it highlights the huge expanding defense capabilities of the Tri-Forces. As opposed to that, Pakistan has dropped from the 9th place, from the 9th place in 2024 to the 12th place. So how do you look at this index?
So, there's a contradiction
from
the question he asked.
That's right. No, so the two opinions.
Yeah.
Basically, he's looking at it from his armed forces point of view.
So I'm sure they're factual.
Yes.
Both are talking about factual.
Exactly.
So there is a contradiction somewhere. So either they are buying more platforms, which means their firepower is going to increase, or they are not. Then this is wrong. Or if this is right, then there is a problem with the question.
Mine is absolutely correct and checked.
Yeah.
So is mine.
Yours is spread out.
No.
Pakistan Navy expansion plans are going to be worth some $15 to $20 billion, and the Pakistan Navy's budget as of today is less than $1 billion. So it'll all have to come through.
No. So that's what.
No. Talking about the firepower,
index.
So it's also reflective of the fact that economically it does not have the similar kind of. See, here this is friendship prices. If they are worth $1 billion, they probably get it for much lower. And the period of repayment will be a long term. Whereas to buy artillery, for example, to buy tanks, which is more immediate and you need to pay upfront. So they don't have the finances for that, and nobody is giving that to them at friendship prices. But some things are getting at friendship prices. Probably that's why it's. And India, we know that India is making it's both Atmanirbhar and also acquiring weaponry from abroad. Yeah.
That's what. Dhruv is one of our young reporters in Bharat Shakti. So he looks at defense aspects of the relationship and otherwise also. So over to you.
So basically, recently the Baloch and Sindhi groups, they've sort of joined hands. So can you tell us a little bit about the Sindhi insurgent groups? What are the aims and objectives, and what brought them together? What are the convergence points and what are the divergence points
Of
the Baloch and Sindhi insurgent groups?
Yeah. So, in Sindh, they have this thing called the Sindh Revolutionary Army. I don't know much about that. At one time, 20, 30 years ago, there was a strong Sindhi nationalist movement. When G.M. Syed, the father of Sindhi nationalism, he was active in politics and his sons. But I think they were infiltrated by Pakistan's agencies and splits and more splits. And so now they're at a very low ebb. But the armed group, the Sindh Revolutionary Army, is something new. I think they've been trained by the Baloch. That's why they're close to the Baloch. borders also meet, and there's a lot of Baloch presence in Sindh. After all, Zardari himself is originally a Baloch. So that is possibly the reasons. But the more interesting thing with the question that you hinted at was that the various Baloch groups are coming together. You know, the recent statement which came out from Brass was that they're going to coordinate their action, and instead of fighting separately, they will fight in a coordinated manner. One of the banes of the Baloch nationalist movement has been they're all fighting on tribal lines. So the Murri will fight in Murri area, the Bukti in his area. But it is the growth of the Baloch middle class, especially those from Makran, from the coastal areas, who are fighting for a pan-Baloch nation, a democratic nation, not fighting for a particular tribe. They have come to the fore, and it is under their impetus that they've got all the Baloch groups together. Now it needs to be seen if it is implemented, if they actually do it. Because then if they do, and if they have coordinated action, because singly today they're able to cause so much of damage. And especially with the BLA, I think the BLA has tied up with the TTP, a purely tactical alliance, that the TTP has given them a lot of sophisticated weaponry, which the Americans left behind, and the BLA in turn has allowed TTP space in Balochistan, so much so they've set up their own province of Kalat and Makran. So if the Baloch groups get together, they have a tie-up with the TTP, then I think the danger for the Pakistan army grows up exponentially. But that will have to be seen if they can do that. Because so far, the Baloch, as I mentioned, the bane of the Baloch movement has been they all fight separately on tribal basis. But if the middle class Baloch are able to prevail on the tribal rivalries and fight together, it will be a big achievement.